They said women couldn't compete with men in precision sports until her flawless accuracy silenced every doubter and revealed her championship past. This story begins at Elite Sports Complex in downtown Denver, a massive 50,000 square foot facility housing everything from basketball courts to swimming pools. Tucked away in the eastern wing was the archery range, 20 shooting lanes stretching 100 yards with Olympic standard targets. The Denver Precision Archery Club met there every Tuesday evening. At 28 years old, Emma Martinez had been attending for 6 weeks, working at Mountain Sports Outfitters and quietly observing the group's dynamics. The club's leader was Marcus Bullseye Thompson, a 45-year-old engineer with 15 years of experience and several state records. Marcus was absolutely convinced that precision sports were fundamentally a male domain. "It's not sexism, it's biology," Marcus would explain. "Men have better hand-eye coordination, steadier muscle control, superior spatial reasoning. Women can participate, but they'll never compete at the highest levels with men." His inner circle included Jake Rodriguez and Dave "Deadeye" Patterson, who shared these views completely. Emma had been listening to these conversations for 6 weeks, using borrowed equipment and being treated like a beginner who would never seriously challenge the experienced members. What none of them knew was that 5 years ago, Emma had stood on the podium at the Tokyo Olympics with a gold medal around her neck, having just broken the women's individual archery world record. She had also won team gold and had been ranked #1 in the world for 3 consecutive years. After achieving everything in competitive archery, Emma had retired at her peak and returned to Colorado for a quiet life. The pressure of constant competition had exhausted her, and she wanted to rediscover her love for archery without performance pressure. She hadn't planned on dealing with Marcus Thompson's theories about women's limitations. That Tuesday evening, Marcus made an announcement that would change everything. "Gentlemen," he said loud enough for the entire range to hear, "I'd like to propose a demonstration. Those 100-yard targets, Olympic distance. I'm willing to bet that none of the women in this club can consistently hit the gold ring from that distance, while any of us men can do it regularly." "That's not really fair," said Patricia Wong, one of only 3 women in the club. "We haven't been practicing at that distance." "Exactly my point," Marcus replied. "You haven't been practicing because you instinctively know you can't handle it. It's not your fault. It's biology." Emma set down her bow and turned to face the group. For 6 weeks, she'd listened to these theories. For 6 weeks, she'd pretended to be a beginner. "I'd like to try," Emma said quietly. Marcus looked surprised. "Try what?" "The 100-yard targets." Jake laughed. "Emma, that's Olympic competition distance. You've been shooting at 50 yards and still working on basic consistency." "I know," Emma replied, "but I'd like to try anyway." Marcus saw an opportunity to prove his point. "All right, Emma, if you can hit the gold ring even once from 100 yards, I'll personally buy you a professional bow setup. But when you can't do it, I hope you'll understand why men dominate precision sports." "What if I can hit more than once?" Emma asked. "If you can hit the gold ring 3 times out of 10 shots, I'll admit that women might have more potential than I thought." "And if I hit it more than that?" Dave interjected, "That's not going to happen." "Emma, we're not trying to embarrass you. 100-yard precision shooting requires capabilities that take years to develop." Emma walked to the equipment rack and selected a standard range bow. Not custom equipment, just basic gear that beginners used. "I understand," she said simply. "Let's see what happens." The entire archery range fell silent as Emma moved to lane 10, facing the 100-yard targets. Jim Sullivan, Elite Sports Complex's archery coordinator, approached to serve as official scorer. Emma began her preparation, and immediately people noticed something different. Her stance, grip, draw technique, everything had shifted to a level of precision that didn't match 6 weeks of beginner shooting. Emma's first arrow was released with fluid perfection. It struck the target dead center of the gold ring. 10 points, Jim called out, amazement in his voice. Marcus looked surprised. "Nice shot, beginner's luck." Emma's second arrow landed less than an inch from the first, then her third, fourth, fifth. By the 6th shot, the range was completely silent except for arrows in flight and Jim's increasingly amazed announcements. 10 points. That's 6 perfect shots in a row. Marcus was no longer smiling. "This isn't possible. Nobody shoots like this without years of elite training." Emma's seventh arrow split the difference between previous shots. Her eighth maintained perfect precision. Her ninth touched the fletching of a previous arrow. By the 10th arrow, every person was watching in absolute silence. This was Olympic-level precision. Emma's final arrow completed a grouping that could be covered by a silver dollar. 10 perfect shots, Jim announced. I've never seen anything like that. Marcus stood frozen, staring through binoculars. Emma, where did you learn to shoot like that? Emma looked around at the faces. Men who had explained women's limitations, women who had accepted them, and the coach who recognized what he'd witnessed. I used to compete, Emma said simply. What level? Jim pressed. Olympic level. I won gold in Tokyo, individual and team events. The silence was profound. Jim's eyes widened. Emma Martinez? The Emma Martinez? You're the Olympic champion? Emma nodded. Jim turned to the range. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just watched one of the greatest archers in history. Emma Martinez is not just an Olympic gold medalist Kenneprace. She's considered the most technically perfect archer of her generation. Marcus approached slowly. Emma, I owe you an enormous apology. No apologies necessary, Emma replied. You didn't know. But we made assumptions based on prejudice, Jake added. Emma nodded. What bothered me wasn't just the assumptions. It was hearing women accept those limitations as fact. Precision sports aren't about gender. They're about training, focus, and dedication. Why didn't you tell us from the beginning? Dave asked. Because I wanted to see if you could respect a woman's potential before knowing her achievements. I wanted to know if you believe women could excel, not just whether you'd defer to an Olympic champion. Jim approached with obvious admiration. Emma, would you consider coaching our competitive program? Elite Sports Complex would be honored to have you. Emma considered the offer, looking at the faces that now showed genuine respect rather than patronizing tolerance. I'd be interested, but only if we establish some ground rules about how we treat all members, regardless of their current skill level or gender. Marcus extended his hand. Emma, I was completely wrong about everything I said. Would you be willing to teach us, all of us? Emma shook his hand. I'd be happy to. But remember, talent and potential exist in everyone. Our job is to nurture it, not dismiss it based on assumptions. Over the following weeks, the Denver Precision Archery Club became a completely different organization. Emma's presence and teaching transformed not just their shooting techniques, but their entire approach to the sport and to each other. Marcus, who had been so convinced of male superiority in precision sports, became one of Emma's most dedicated students. He learned not just advanced archery techniques, but also the importance of encouraging, rather than discouraging, newer members. The club's membership doubled within 2 months, with women joining who had previously been intimidated by the male-dominated environment. Emma's reputation drew serious archers from across the state, but also attracted beginners who wanted to learn in a supportive environment. Emma established a mentorship program where experienced members were paired with newcomers, regardless of gender. The focus shifted from proving superiority to developing everyone's potential. Jim Sullivan expanded the archery program at Elite Sports Complex, adding beginning classes and competitive training sessions. Emma's coaching attracted attention from the U.S. Olympic Committee, who offered her a position with the national team. Most importantly, the conversations changed. Instead of theories about biological limitations, members discussed technique, training methods, and individual progress. The range became a place where precision was celebrated wherever it was found. 6 months after her demonstration, Emma stood in the same spot where she'd been dismissed as biologically inferior, now coaching a mixed group of men and women who were achieving personal bests through proper instruction and mutual support. Marcus approached after a particularly successful training session. Emma, I've been thinking about what you said that first night, about respecting potential before knowing achievements. I wanted to thank you for teaching us to be better than we were. Emma smiled. Everyone has the capacity to grow, that includes all of us. Patricia Wong, who had been told she could never compete with men, had just qualified for state championships under Emma's coaching. Jake Rodriguez had improved his accuracy by 40% by adopting techniques Emma had learned from her Olympic training. But the most significant change was in the club's culture. New members were welcomed and encouraged rather than tested and dismissed. Gender became irrelevant in discussions about potential and achievement. A year after her revelation at Elite Sports Complex, Emma made an announcement that surprised no one who had watched her coach. She was returning to competitive archery, aiming for the Paris Olympics. Her comeback tournament was held at Elite Sports Complex, with the entire Denver Precision Archery Club serving as her support team. Marcus and Dave handled equipment logistics. Patricia and the other women managed scoring, and Jim provided official oversight. Emma didn't just return to competition. She returned at a level that surpassed even her previous Olympic performance. The mental clarity she'd gained during her break, combined with the joy of rediscovering her love for the sport, made her more formidable than ever. But more than her personal success, Emma had proven that excellence emerges when we create environments that nurture potential rather than dismiss it based on preconceptions. Marcus often told newcomers Emma's story, reminding them that the quiet person practicing beside them might be carrying achievements beyond imagination, and that their own potential might be far greater than anyone, including themselves, had ever believed. Sometimes the most important targets aren't made of paper and rings, but of the assumptions that prevent us from recognizing greatness. Emma Martinez didn't just hit bullseyes that night at Elite Sports Complex. She shattered the barriers that had kept others from even trying.